Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's very special guest is Javier Hinojo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Oh, you got my last name perfect. Look at that. 1 point right there. 1 point.
Thank you. So just to let the audience know, so Michael and I actually met Javier through his podcast, which was great. But what made the connection really awesome was that, like, as some of you know, and those of you who don't, like, the book that got us into real estate investing was Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. And Javier is actually doing something really awesome with Robert Allen, which I'm not going to disclose here. We're going to wait. So you're going to actually have to listen to it all to find out about all of his goodness. But like instantly it was like, oh, you know, our man. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Javier, would you mind sharing with the Adventurous family a little bit more about yourself, why you started investing in real estate?
Sure. I started by flipping houses and actually just got a haircut, so you can't see my white hair. But I always tell everybody that I'm 24 years old, but I look like I'm 42 because I flipped houses. I flipped in the wrong way. And don't get me wrong, I just didn't enjoy it. And I did that for about 4 years. And roughly almost 2 years ago, I decided to switch to multifamily just because I could scale a lot easier. And I just saw more opportunity, right? You could have a full-time job and still participate actively or passively. And it was just a better model for me. And I really enjoyed it. And I just knew that all my life I had to do real estate. I didn't know what or how or what it was, but I knew I had to do real estate because that would set me up for my, my future, my retirement, my family, my legacy, and all that good stuff. So
what initially made you go into that thought? Did you read the same book by Robert Allen?
No, unfortunately, no. Robert Allen, we became really good friends. And I told him, Robert, you're probably not gonna like me anymore. He's like, what? I've never read any of your books. And he's like, Javier, I understand. It's okay. I still like you. I said, okay, great. So that was a big load off my shoulders, right? I was like 3 days before I hanging out with him. He's taking me to dinner, right? I'm like, man, he paid for my dinner. Maybe I should tell him that I never read his book, Anyway.
So what was it that?
What got me?
Yeah.
I just knew that just working, I was self-employed and my clients were my bosses, right? That was my boss. So I really wasn't self-employed. I just knew that deep inside that I needed to do something different, to create some passive income, some wealth, and it wasn't going to be by doing what I was doing. So, I mean, that was just pretty much it. And I had to figure out what else would I do? And I'm like, okay, am I an IT guy, a tech guy, a startup guy? Like, no, I'm not that smart. I'm like, well, let's do some real estate. It's everybody seems to do it. And let's figure it out. So I took one of those 3-day weekend seminars and I paid $35K for them coaching and that was it. That's how I got started.
From that coaching, was that geared towards multifamily or was that geared towards the flipping?
Yeah, it was just for flipping. Yeah, it was for single family. Yep.
Gotcha. And then what, as you said, you flipped a lot of houses and things like that. Like what kind of made you realize that maybe multifamily was more, the route that you wanted to go?
Just the scalability. There's a lot of different reasons. I'm doing this little 15-second videos of 101 reasons why multifamily is better than single family. Nothing wrong with my single family guys out there. Nothing wrong. I love you flippers. I love you guys all. But there's it's at least 101 reasons. I'm at reason number 6, so I have a few more to come up with. But the biggest one for me was just the scalability, right? If I own 50 houses and I want to own another 50 houses, I got to go buy a portfolio of 50 houses. Extremely hard, really, really hard. Or I start buying a house at a time. You know how long it's going to take you to buy a house at a time? It's going to take a while, right? If you have a 50-unit apartment building and you want to double, you go buy yourself another 50-unit apartment building. One loan, right? One seller, one inspection, and one scope of work, right? It's like one capital raise. Or you're going to go buy 50 houses. Then you got to do 50 loans, 50 inspections, 50, everything. It's just scalability is not there with the houses.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I know if you're doing all the houses, if you're doing buy and hold, the most loans I think you can get I don't know if it's changed, but and we don't do a lot of residential stuff, so maybe I'm speaking inappropriately here, but I think like the most loans that like Freddie or Fannie would let you have is like 10 personal
Yeah,
loans,
something like
right?
that. It's like 10 per person. It used to be 5, 1 to 10, but you can get creative, right? You can form an LLC, and then you have some banks that lend you money on your LLC, like a portfolio loan or
That's true.
a blanket loan for some properties.
Yeah.
You can do that too. Pay a little bit more, but that's how you start owning a lot more houses.
Yeah.
It's more work.
I'm just curious, like these houses that you flipped, did you ever keep any for rentals, or was it just
No,
You're like,
I
see
should've-
ya, bye.
Yeah, I should have
Yeah.
kept some for rental. I mean, nobody knows what the market's going to do, right? Like I see a house that I flipped, 3 years ago, and I made like 50K, and it's already been flipped twice, right? And everybody made 50K on it, right? Like, man, if I would have kept that, I would have made 150, 200 or 300. But
yeah.
nobody knows that, right? Nobody knows that. And my plan was, I wanted to build up a lot of cash and then start buying some rental properties. But I really never kept any single family for rentals. It just felt like it was a headache, and like, I don't know. It just didn't, I didn't want to do it. And when I got close to doing it, that's when I decided to switch. I said, no, it was another, like, that was like a cherry on top. Like, no, like, I don't want to rent out houses. And I know people that have a lot of houses and they do really well and they make a lot of money, single family, right? But it just wasn't not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
No, that's totally okay.
If you were to go back and tell, young Javier, what, before he went to that 3-day seminar over the weekend, like what would you go back and tell him? Would you say, hey, do it? Or would you say, hey,
Oh yeah, I would have said, why the hell did you wait so long? And there's no such thing as stepping stones, right? Like you shouldn't start by flipping a house or wholesaling a house and buying a 10 unit and 100. No, you can start anywhere you want, right? What's your personality? Do you want to take down a $50 million portfolio? Why not? Why not start there, right? Now you just got to connect with people and network, right? That with the right folks, get in the right ecosystem to be able to do that. But there's really no stepping stones, in my opinion. So I would have told myself that.
Yeah.
So speaking of like connecting with the right people, dear to my heart, Robert Allen, can you tell us, because I love like what you're doing with him. So can you like tell the audience more about what you did? Because I think you've created a huge impact like in this particular community, and like we are huge on impact, and even to have the younger generation start into this greatness, just like you said, you should have started sooner. So can you tell our audience what I'm talking about?
I met Robert Allen at a mastermind event, and he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. So the way you see him, that's the way he is. Like, oh my gosh, the guy's super nice, full of knowledge, and he just loves to give. So we had a chance to meet. He's very patient, very calm. I'm like, I'm totally opposite, right? And so we hit it off well. And our other mutual friend, his name's Tim. He said he had this idea of saying, hey, let's get some teens to buy houses and flip them, right? And maybe and maybe some other teens that buy apartments. Well, ended up morphing to just apartments, right? So we ended up getting 19 teenagers that came out to my office for 2 weeks. I pretty much trained them from underwriting, calling brokers, making offers from A to Z for the most part. The only thing I didn't teach was like asset management or due diligence. I said, look, guys, when we get a property under contract, we'll go through the process. There's no sense of you knowing it right now.
Right.
But just basically the acquisition from A to Z. And we had them there for 2 weeks. You should have seen their face at the beginning, right? Like, what's your goals? Everybody had like really small goals, just a belief level, right? Like a week later, they're talking about like big numbers. Like they're like, I don't want to make this offer on this property is only $2 million. Like when the hell did a $2 million offer is a small offer, right? It was amazing. So they started calling brokers, making offers. They're making about $50 to $80 million worth of offers every week.
Wow.
Now we're super close to getting a couple LOIs. Well, as everybody knows in this business, right, you got to be persistent, right? It's all about being persistent, staying at it, and eventually you're going to land something. So that's the biggest thing that I tell the kids every single Saturday because we have our meeting. Just be persistent, right? Don't get discouraged because you'll land something eventually. So that was it, right? That was the challenge. We got 19 teenagers. We did 3 groups. We split them up in 3 groups, and the goal is for them to have a net worth of $1 million in 12 months.
Wow. So where are they at in this whole process right now?
So it's been about 6 weeks. They have their team, they have their daily huddles, they have their KPIs, they have their, it's like a business, right? It's a team, multifamily is a team sport. So, and then we have our big meeting every Saturday for 45 minutes where we all share our KPIs together. So, we're making offers, right? Every single week. They're making, 10, 15 offers a week. And
Wow.
they're pretty close to some LOIs. And these kids are making some big offers, like $80 million, my daughter, she's 16. She decided to join the challenge. And none of my kids want to do real estate. None of them. Right. And when I asked her if she wanted to do it, she's like, okay, Dad, I want to try it. And I'm having a breakfast with her. I'm having this deep conversation. We have some, some stuff, some personal stuff just we talking about. She's 16. And her phone rings. She's like, Dad, hold on. It's a broker. I got to take it. And she just leaves me hanging. I'm like,
So
I'm
cool.
like, no way. Like, I've created a monster, but, I wanted to cry and I wanted to be, I was happy and sad at the same time. But how many times have I not done that to my daughter, to my kids, to my family, right? Take a business call. So it was a little bit, it was a bittersweet, but it's just so nice. It just feels so good. Not just because she's my daughter, but I got even emails and text messages and calls from all the parents just saying how like it changed their projection of their life. Like they got rid of the loser friends. There were a few breakups. I wasn't planning on that, right? Some
Right?
people
I didn't even think
girlfriend and
about
boyfriend.
that.
Wow. Yeah.
Just because they're not going to be in the same level. Like it's a waste of time, right? Like it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just either they don't support you or they just don't have the same mentality. And you can't hang out with people like that, right? I mean, it sucks, right? They might just can't. You got to hang around the right people, going to help you get to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit more than I expected on that side. But we had kids from all, we had kids that their parents were worth $50 million to kids who showed up and didn't even have a laptop, right? So we had a wide range and they're all working together and I'm pretty happy. So it was a lot of work, but I'm very excited. And I just can't wait because I just know that these kids' lives have changed, right? They're going to build some lifelong relationships and friendships.
That's really cool. So break it down for me a little bit further, Javier. So like,
Yep.
They came in, you taught them how to underwrite and things like that. Like, so now you taught them how to communicate with brokers, what to look for in deals and stuff like that. So like, they're getting all these deals in, they're underwriting them themselves. Do they go through any check before, like any kind of sanity check before they're just submitting out LOIs or what?
Yeah. So for now, they run all the numbers and then they send it into my team, to my director of acquisition, and he'll check it to make sure that it's a good number.
Okay. Gotcha.
At some point, probably after, maybe another month or two, yeah, we won't have to do that anymore.
Nice.
They can go ahead and submit the offer. So
So
they're getting really good at it. Like
That's
they're getting really good.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah, you got like an army of kids like
Right?
submitting LOIs for you. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean they have it all like scheduled out, so they don't send the same LOI to the same property, and like they have like their own workflows. And,
Wow.
And people ask me all the time, I want to get started in multifamily, or I just don't know what's a good deal, how to underwrite it. I'm like, guys, I got 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds doing this. It's not hard, just got to learn how to do it, and you can do it. You can underwrite. It's not impossible.
That's crazy. So like, so the first LOI that I ever submitted was like over $7 million, right? So like, that was mind blowing to me. But then taking the action, clicking the button, hit submit, things like that. Like my mind was like, oh, now $7 million, did that, didn't get that accepted. But I was like, oh, now $7 million, not a big deal, right? Now these kids are like 15, 16 years old. They're submitting like
$80 million.
$80 million, like they're going to be, now. But when they move into adulthood, they're going to have so much confidence, which is incredible.
Listen, the $80 million, we were at 82 million. The seller was at 80, and he went with somebody else. We were $2 million off. So we're really close. We're really close.
Fractions, yeah.
But it's just, say, hey guys, we got to make sure we get a good purchase price, right? Make sure we make money. So I can't wait till we do the first one and we start raising capital and we get it signed and we go through the whole process. So it's very exciting. But I'm just happy they're making offers. I remember, Michael, you told me about your first LOI. You were super scared about that, right? Like, you're so nervous. Yeah. So after you do the first one, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's just like having kids. Look, I have 5 kids. At the very beginning, you get so nervous, like you don't want to do nothing to your kids. Like I don't do anything to my kids. But like if you leave your firstborn at the grocery store, I mean, the whole world stops. But on your 5th kid, if you leave him at the grocery store, like you don't panic. You're like, oh. You call the manager, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to grab some Starbucks. I'll be there. You don't panic anymore, right? Because you've already done it a few times. Anyway.
I am curious, how many teenagers like applied, or what was that like? Like, how did you advertise? How many applied?
Yeah. It's a great question. So one of the things we had them go through a checklist, and they had to submit a video. And
Oh,
you guys haven't
cool.
seen, so there's a couple of YouTube videos. You'll see the video where they all submit it. Actually, my videographer put it all together in my YouTube channel, where it has everybody like, hey, this is my, they say their name and where they're from. And then we have a post video, like after the whole 2 weeks, we did like a before and after. So you kind of get a feel of their, of the kids, right? But they had to go through a questionnaire and then submit a video and answer a few questions. Now I didn't want to have like 500 submissions. So I told everybody, hey, just post it one time on your social media. And we were only going to take like 10 teens, but we ended up taking 19. I forgot how many we had, but we had quite a few. The ones that didn't put a video, we just cut them off, you know?
Yeah.
So, and on the next one, we have a huge list for the season 2. Like everybody's like, are you doing season 2? So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We might bring some of the first season kids come in and mentor the other ones, you know, make it easier.
Oh, yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah, no, and I wanted you to just like break that down a little further, because like we often hear parents say like, oh, I want to get like more teenagers involved, or my teenagers involved. And like, this is a great way, not only for other teenagers, but even for your company, right? I mean, it all goes hand in hand. And like, just, I don't know. I wish that I had something like that. I know, you know, the internships are offered, but it's not the same thing. You know, like I've gone through internships, and like, I think I was the same person when I left. I was like, I don't know what I did during this time, but like through this real estate journey, the confidence that I've built in myself is just completely different. You know, like when it's a business and you're doing it on your own, like just so much more is going through your brain. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, everybody says like, I wish I had an opportunity when I was a teenager, you know? I mean, yeah, internships are great, but man, if you're 16, 17, and then the atmosphere in my office, right? It's an exotic car club. You know, there was, I don't know, 15, $20 million worth of exotic cars, right? And they're walking by the Ferraris, by the Lamborghinis, by the Porsches, the Rolls Royce, and just a great setting for them to just think about. It's not just about money, right? It's not about money, but it's just about wealth, about your mindset. You know, somebody owns that car. Why can't it be you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, it's just like, and they met some of the owners are there, some of the members. Yeah, once you meet the folks, you're like, okay, I can do it, you know, like they're not that smart, you know? So, yeah.
Right. And that was a huge thing for us, like for Susie and I, is like, once you get into these rooms where these people are crushing these like $80 million deals and things like that, you're like, hey, that person's just like me, you know, like,
exactly.
And you're like, why can't I be doing that? I can. That person's just like me. He acts like me, talks like me, everything like that. He's done the same thing. He just started a little bit earlier than me. Right. So yeah.
Especially if you go drink afterwards, you're like, man, okay. And anyways,
yeah.
drinking, like, yeah, okay, this guy's fun, you know, like this guy's fun. This guy, this normal guy, you know, it's a normal girl, normal person. They just hang around. Honestly, their mentality is different. They hang around different kind of people, and they take action, right? I mean, that's pretty much, and anything you do, right? Like if Susie owned taco trucks and I wanted to own taco trucks, I hang out with her for 6 months, guarantee you that I probably own some taco trucks.
We'd probably weigh a little bit more also, but I like this idea.
So
that's awesome. I do.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm just like so blown away by this whole story. I mean, like now Susie's full-time real estate. This might be the first podcast recorded since you know, on our podcast that
we could talk about that on a podcast.
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, I know you mentioned that a few weeks ago when we talked. We were getting ready to the transition.
Yeah.
So now she's full-time, and I'm like,
congratulations.
Thinking, like, well, now she can have 19 interns, you know, next summer. So yeah, there we go.
Oh, for sure.
And it could be like children from military families who are overseas. I'm really liking this.
Yeah, you can do it anywhere. I mean, you can do it virtually. They don't have to come to an office. We just did it at the office. It was cool. But then everybody went back home, right? So everybody's back home. I got like 2 kids in Hawaii, right?
Wow. 2
teens are in Hawaii in college. Somebody's in Phoenix, you know, all Florida, you know, so Texas, they're all over, Iowa, all over the place. Georgia, Ohio. So, you know, they just, you know, they can be anywhere. Sure. They can be in China. It doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
That's really awesome. It is.
Gave Susie some ideas. Now.
Right? Thank you.
Sure.
No, that's cool. Thanks for that. So something else that I know you're a part of, which goes along with this, right? Because like before we were talking about like mindset with teenagers and like how that helps them excel. I know you're part of the $1 billion boardroom, and that is huge because so many of us, right? We just talk about how we want our net worth to be $1 million. You know, like that's a lot of people's goal. It's a lot of people's goal. Like, could you tell us a little about the $1 billion boardroom and like how I'm sure you've seen a substantial amount of growth in there? I mean, the name in itself, like when I first read it, I was like, that's sweet. You know, like that's something I'd want to be a part of.
So it's a mastermind. So everybody out there is not part of a mastermind or some kind of good networking group with like-minded, qualified individuals as well.
Yeah.
You got to get into on a mastermind. You know, my net worth has grown, you know, multiple 7 figures because of that this year, and I've made a lot of money because of being in a mastermind. The connections, the networking, the deal flow, it's pretty cool. But I mean, the biggest thing is you support each other, right? It's just a group of peers. Somebody's doing a little bit different and they get up and they speak. Say maybe they speak about their business, what they're doing. You got to sign a non-disclosure, of course, because they're talking about their business.
Yeah.
Right.
And they tweak something, right? Like, I'm like, holy smokes, that's going to work for my business. And that just makes you, you know, so much money, right? Or it just helps you much in your business. But the most powerful thing is being in that group, right? So I took a little survey and I said, okay, guys, everybody in a piece of paper, write down your net worth, right? There's about 50 people there, give or take. And everybody wrote their net worth and it came out to $165 million net worth, right? In that group. So I said, hey guys, what kind of stuff can we buy? Like we can buy a lot of things here. Like there's $165 million worth of net worth in here. We can go buy pretty much just about anything, right? You want to see a building? If it's 100 million, we can buy it, right? We all know somebody, we all got connections. That's the power of masterminding where it stretches you. Like it'll also stretch you, right? Had a guy sitting there, he started a fund like 30 million dollars, took him a year and he showed us how he did it. Another friend of mine who raised $20 million in 3 weeks on Facebook funnels, like cold traffic, right? He's talking about how he did that. I'm like, man, this is like blows my mind. Like, you know, these guys are super smart, you know? So it's pretty neat. So join a mastermind, guys. If that's my recommendation. If you're really serious, find something that's a good fit and join one, just because the connections and the networking is pretty cool.
Yeah. And even to add, because I know initially it might be like, oh, well, I don't belong in that room. You know, some people might think that, but you progress from masterminds, right? Like you start in one, once you like are done with that, your education is done, you can move on to another and you can move on to another after that. It's like very similar with coaching, you know, like people can have even a real estate coach, but then they can have a life coach. Then they can have a public speaking coach. It's like, I know you said that like stepping stones, you don't necessarily need that, but like, just go where you are like drawn to. Go where you need to go in order to succeed, because once you outgrow a place, like just move on to a new one.
Oh yeah. Well, as far as like, you know, if you're going to join a mastermind, a lot of them have qualifications, right? So if you're like brand new, you know, you probably won't qualify. So you do need to start like get some coaching, get some experience, and then you jump up to the next level and then the next level, right? There's some masterminds that I don't qualify for. You know, I'm like, man, I can't wait. I can't wait, right? Where the conversations are like, hey, I'm buying my second jet, you know, I'm buying my third beach house, like things like that, right? That's the kind of conversations I want to be having. I don't qualify yet, but I'll be there.
That's super cool. And even like, I can see like the passion and motivation in your face because it's there. Something that someone told Michael and I, and this just has to do with conferences, right? It was like, if you can get seats at the front or join the VIP experience, do that, because the people in the back will be talking about how horrible their seats are. And the people in the front will be talking about ideas and about all of the content. And that's similar to everything. It's similar to like the people you hang out with. It's going to be similar to like the education that you put into yourself, but it's going to draw you to more people like Javier is talking about, like the people who help motivate you, the people who can like help you grow. It's substantial what people can do when you're in the right rooms.
Yeah, it's VIP. I always go VIP. So just as simple as like going to Orlando, they have VIP tours, right? It was like, I don't forget what it was for my family of 4 was like $8,000. I don't know, right? It's not cheap, but everybody in that tour can afford that. So what kind of conversations was I having with these people in the same group, right? Totally different conversations.
Yep.
You know, just because I was part of this VIP private tour at Orlando Universal, right? So yeah, VIP is going to cost you more, but the connections are better.
Right. And that connection will like
Pay for that.
pay
immediately.
for
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
which is
That's very
phenomenal.
cool.
No, yeah, thank you for that, because like we love education so much, but education does not just like come from books or podcasts, right? Like it comes from people. There are people who are talking on the podcast and writing the books, you know, like just think outside of the box that you've created, because the box is a man-made object, you know, has no ceiling. So I'm not sure, but yeah.
Correct. That's true. I like that. Yeah.
So-
And then the education you never forget is the one that when you take action, right? And you actually go through it and you actually hurt yourself and you scratch yourself and you succeed and you cry and you laugh, right? That's the education you never forget.
That's right. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are super big, like, oh, you need to educate. Like, yeah, and you're gaining all this, and they say like knowledge is power, right? But like I continue to say, hey, let me correct that. Like knowledge is potential power, right? It doesn't do anything until you actually put it in action. So
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. So 3 things. I would stand up, but I'm wearing my shorts. I don't care. Here, look. I'm about to go to the gym. I know I got my logo on and stuff, but in the back, that's what I have. Oh, I don't know if you saw it, but anyways, in the back of my shirt, that's what it says. It just says the trifecta, the trifecta REI, hashtag the trifecta REI. Number 1 is believe. Number 2 is network. And number 3 is take action, right? That's pretty much it. If you do those 3 things, you can pretty much do anything in the world, anything.
that's
Right? You
awesome.
can do anything. So
Yeah. Believe, network, take action.
yep.
That's great. That's great to keep top of mind for sure. So with that, Javier, we will move into the final 4 questions. These are 4 adventurous questions we ask all
Awesome.
of our guests. So, and I'm really excited to hear your answers to this, and I'm sure our adventurous family is too. So the first question, Javier, is where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
Space would be awesome. Now that it's actually possible, right? Going to Mars or even going to space. Like I heard something that like our kids in elementary school right now may have a chance to like land in Mars. I'm like, holy smokes. That's pretty cool, right? But I would
Yeah,
love
it
to
is.
take what was that?
No, I was saying that is like, I
yeah.
haven't heard that yet, but that's phenomenal.
It's super cool. Like I would love to take hey, let's do a mastermind. No, you take off, right? And then you do a mastermind in space while you orbit, right? That would be pretty cool, right? Because I'm scared as heck about doing that. And number 2, I think it would be, you never forget about it. So
Yeah, that's really cool. I had this epiphany earlier, and like since we syndicate from like 4,000 miles away, I was like, man, I got to think bigger. Like I have like Elon Musk on the mind and Steve Jobs, of course, right? So I'm thinking like, well, why not syndicate from outer space or syndicate from Mars, right? Like be off, because I was like, not even on the same continent, but now we're not even on the same planet. You know, like that is the ultimate long distance real estate investor.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be cool. I just got a lot of questions about being in space. If somebody punches me in space, you know, how does he get in trouble? Where? Right?
That's true.
Who's in
I
charge
like
of that? You know, anyway.
yeah.
No, that's fun. Cool. Then our second question is, what is the number 1 thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Look, my number 1 thing in my bucket list is not to do anything. I love to work. Like I love to always be doing something, but when I say that, it's more like not having to do something, right?
Yeah.
Like not having to actually get up and do whatever it is. Like that's my ultimate like thing on my bucket list. I love to outsource everything. If I could outsource arguing with my wife, I would outsource that. It always ends the same way. Honey, you're right. You know, I'm so sorry. And I order some flowers and say, I love you. And that's it. You know, ever since I got married, I became a professional apologizer. So anyways, I should make it. But yeah, that would be it. Like, get to the point where I don't have to do anything, right? I do it because I want to.
No, I love that.
I think in the 4-hour work week, I think Tavares talks about he has trained a VA to like answer emails to his wife or something like that.
That's funny. That's funny.
It was.
Yeah. Cool. So the third question, Javier, is what is one piece of advice you have for someone who wants to passively invest in real estate?
Anybody who wants to passively invest in real estate, I would say if you know the person that you're investing with, that's awesome. If you don't know them, just vet them, right? Ask around, see if you know anybody that you know in your network knows those people. Don't be needy, right? If you're gonna be passive, right? Don't send 100 emails, right? You know, just trust the process, right? You've already vetted the sponsors and the GPs and all that, so trust the process. Don't be needy, right?
I love that answer. Yeah.
Just because it's a lot of work. Trust me, you won't get my emails anymore. Uh,
That's funny. And then the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
Super cool. So I've always had this thought process where I said, hey, if I could live off of 10% of everything that I make and give away 90%, how cool would that be?
Ah, yes.
How cool would the world be? You know, and you know, I've always thought about you know, third world countries or orphanages, you know, things like that. People, I always say everybody has the same opportunity. But it all depends where you grow, where you're at, right? You can grab me and put me in a poor town in Mexico, and my opportunity is not going to be great. You grab somebody there, and you put them in the family here in the U.S., you know, a middle class family, they probably have better opportunity because of their surroundings. So, with that said, I would love to do something like either like an orphanage or something that doesn't teach people to like sew and change car oil, but like
Yeah.
it's like technology, like these kids, it's children, like technology, IT, website. I mean, just you know, not your traditional, you know, plumbing or electrician, but like actually high tech stuff that would actually, you know, for this time and age. So I would love to do something like that.
No, I love that.
So I'll
Thank
do
you
an
so much for
impact.
sharing that, because
Yeah.
that is impactful and phenomenal. So thank you.
Yeah. So before we end the show, Javier, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family how they can get a hold of you, and especially tell them about your YouTube channel that you kind of mentioned earlier, where we can find those cool videos of those kids.
Yep. Sure. It's Javier Hinojo, just my name, Javier Hinojo, on YouTube, or javierhinojo.com. That's probably the easiest way to go. You go there and you'll find links to my social media, YouTube channel, podcast, and all that. Everything's just go to my website, javierhinojo.com.
Yeah. You've reached out to Javier. Make sure that you mentioned that you heard him on the Adventures of Real Estate Investor
Yes.
podcast, and he'll be sure to answer your questions.
And for your guests only, I have not told anybody this, but for only your listeners, that shirt, that black shirt that I'm wearing on my website for now, I actually slipped in that shirt. I didn't have any more shirts for the day, and that was my PJ shirt, and I was taking pictures with
I
it,
like it.
with my PJ shirt.
That's awesome, right? So Javier, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom today. And thank you so much for the Teen Millionaire Challenge, like just being creative and coming up with that, because that is huge. And I know that you have already changed their lives and you will continue to change more of their lives. So again, thanks for being here. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah. So until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.
Woo!